today's transformation video is going to be a little bit different because the doll I'm going to be fixing up, her name is Maddie. She's not one of my dolls. She belongs to one of my sister's work friend's daughter. She was a Christmas gift and she was secondhand, so after a little bit of play, her already loose limbs, she lost a leg. Her mom didn't want to send the doll to the doll hospital because obviously that's expensive. So if she hadn't known that we could probably fix up the doll Maddie, the doll probably would have ended up in the trash. So I was more than happy to fix Maddie. It's really easy to restring American Girls. I have a tutorial on my channel that I filmed last year, and I also have a photo tutorial that I updated all the pictures on my Flickr last year as well. So if you are looking to restring a doll and you want like a step-by-step method, feel free to check out the video or the photo tutorial. I also decided to give Maddie a day at the spa, wash her hair, deep clean her body and all that while I had her apart already for restringing. So I hope you enjoy and stay tuned to see the makeover process. Alright, so this is Miss Maddie. You can see the main issue here is the leg that fell off, but we've got a little bit of a marionette thing going on here. Her arms are wiggly, this leg is also dangling. It looks like the cord is really stretched out probably. Not a failure of the little brass inserts that they clamped down during this era of dolls. She is definitely an early Mattel doll because Mattel dolls have body tags. A Pleasant Company doll will never have a tag, and she does say Pleasant Company on the back, but lots of Mattel dolls say Pleasant Company. There are whole characters like Julie and Kaya that will be stamped Pleasant Company that were never even made by Pleasant Company, so just keep that in mind if you're trying to date your doll. But she's got to be an earlier one. This is like a similar tag to what my Lindsay has. So yep, I'm gonna take her apart, and she was secondhand, so I'm probably gonna do like a whole nice deep clean on her, stuffing, body, all that, because I'm gonna have her apart anyways because all of this needs to be restrung. The first order of business was untying her neck strings. I will use a really small flathead screwdriver to do this because obviously she needs to come apart in order for me to properly restring her. Then I moved all of her stuffing into a pillowcase. I didn't show it this time around because I was trying to do this on a really busy day of the week where I had to go to work early and then I had my therapy appointment. But I threw this pillowcase with the stuffing into the washing machine and then into the dryer. You can wash this like regular laundry. So according to her tag, so this top row is the year, so from 2000 to 2009, and then the alphabet represents the month, so A would be January, February. So she was made in 2002, December of 2002. Not all dolls from this era will have a body tag. There are a few in my collection that don't, even though they were like Girl of the Years that were only made in this time frame. But this is like a really good way of knowing when your doll was manufactured. That doesn't mean that they were purchased that year. Now usually with Girl of Today dolls, they had a quick turnover rate, so I'm assuming this doll probably was purchased by the original owner sometime in 2003, early 2003, because she was made in the last month of 2002. But historical characters like Kaya, for instance, my doll has a body tag that dates her manufacturing from 2002, but I didn't get my doll until May of 2005, so that can be an interesting little tidbit. While I was getting her stuffing out, I also had to keep my eyes out for the plastic cup that would have fallen apart when her leg broke. You can see it's there. Oh, wow, her joint did fail. You can see, completely split. cut all of her limbs off in order to restring them. If the limb is a little bit loose because it wasn't clamped down in the right place, or the knot that they use later on isn't in the right place, you can like zip tie or something right underneath it to fill in the space, but these were stretched out, so off the limbs had to go. It's scary, but it's easy to fix. So we want to save these. These are important. But this stuff is junk. And in here I put some homemade laundry soap and some water, and I put her cloth torso as well as the outfit she was wearing. I don't know if this was like used or played with a lot, or it could have been brand new, but while I had it out, and I just let these soak while I cleaned the doll and hung them to dry. Usually it's easier to clean the doll when she's fully assembled, but Maddie had already lost a limb and she was super jiggly like a marionette, so it would have just made it more of a hassle, and that way her body could soak while I scrubbed these down. So I used a toothbrush with dish soap first, and then I followed it with some baking soda. I cleaned them the same way I clean Barbies, and baking soda is actually what American Girl used to sell in their skincare kits. I had it growing up, and the ingredient was baking soda. So we just refilled the fancy cup with baking soda that we had from the kitchen. And I'm also washing her face the same way. Some water will get behind her eyes, but don't worry, I will fix that in a few minutes. And I washed her hair twice with dish soap. That's what I like to use instead of shampoo. Their hair is plastic. You don't need to use, quote, a mild shampoo like they tell you. It's literally plastic, and this is how I wash all my dolls. I feel like it does a really good job deep cleaning, and because it's meant for you to wash your dishes, it does kill germs, but not in an aggressive way, because you can use like Dawn dish soap on animals. And I put a crap ton of conditioner all over her hair, and I'm detangling it first with a wide tooth comb. You probably don't want to use a wig brush for this part. I do tend to style their hair with wig brushes though. And then I'll chase that with the fine tooth comb to get every knot out, and always make sure to do the underside too and around the hairline, because that will get frizzy and stuff if you don't. So I'm rinsing out all the conditioner really thoroughly. Now I have my sink on the hottest water setting because I didn't want to boil wash this doll's hair. This is human grade Kanekalon that they use on American Girls, and like Barbie grade Kanekalon, which feels different but it responds the same way to heat, this will go completely straight if you put the hair in actual boiling water. And her hair didn't need it, but it was really quite dry, so by running it under the hot tap and combing it, it's basically like giving it a boil wash but without the boiling water. This is also what I would do for like an Addie doll, because Addie's textured hair will go completely straight if the water is truly boiling. But if your doll has really bad hair, it does need to go in really boiling water. You can add back the texture, like the curl or the wave, later, but people will always say it doesn't work for them. It's because you're not using hot enough water. But she did not need super hot water. And you'll see I'm going to sprinkle diluted gel all over her hair after. Inevitable that during during this process, some water will get behind the doll's eyes. I will put the hair dryer on the cold setting only and blow all the water out from behind her eyes. This does not cause silver eye. Silver eye is a factory defect. People always think that getting their eyes wet causes it. No, it doesn't. It's a factory defect, but you don't want the eyes to get rusty or anything. You don't want water behind them, so this is just an important step, but do not use hot air. It will melt the lashes. I heated up the limbs in actual boiling water. It's very important that it's boiling, and I let them sit for a few minutes because it makes it really flexible, and you can see I was able to pull the cups out. There are cups inside each limb, so there will be 8 of these plastic cups total. I have a detailed tutorial on this if you want to know how to restring. This was just some clips of me fixing the doll. I use bungee cord for my strings. I don't buy the fancy kind. Bungee cords are really strong, and this is what I've always used. I will cut them in half, like one mini bungee cord, and then they come with these little, like, metal clamps to hold the hooks on. Obviously, I have to cut one side off to remove the hooks, but I will keep one side intact so I can use those little metal clamps. I don't have to use washers on 2 of them. I'm restringing all 4 limbs. And I didn't show myself doing it, but what I used instead of knots, which I can't knot these cords to save my life, and the actual, like, imitation of the factory clamps are kind of hard to get and expensive, I will bend washers. I pre-bent these because I had only 3/16 ones left, and they're thicker, so I had to break out my big pliers to bend them. But the number 10 mini washers are really easy to bend with small pliers, so I do have a tutorial on how I do this where I explain everything and show you all the parts in great detail, but if you're just kind of wanting a brief explanation, I will have 4 bungee cords that I prep with a washer as a clamp, and then I'll line the cup up against, like, it butts up against the washer, and I clamp the washer down so it won't move. And then I have to insert 4 of those cups into the limbs. You saw me do that in one of the previous clips. Then I have to feed the string through the socket and put the other cup down so that the flat side is on the inner joint. You can see here, flat side down, round side up. Then I'll slide my washer that's already pre-bent. I pull the cord as tight as possible. I mean, I left a tiny bit of slack because I can do this like way too strong so the doll can barely move, but so it's nice and tight, and then I will clamp the washer down while holding the tension, and I repeat this for every limb. You can see I'm feeding it through, getting my cup flat side down, grabbing my washer, feeding that through. Sometimes I had to use pliers because I pre-bent these a little bit too much, and I use a jewelry crimping tool to clamp these down, but you can use pliers or whatever if you choose to use this method. And they're really easy. Having them pre-bent makes it way, way, way easier. And you can see I'm testing the tightness of her limbs. And this is an optional step, but I will trim off the extra bungee cord, and then you could see me melting it in the previous clip. This is just to prevent it from fraying. It won't unravel because the washer is there to stop it, but it keeps it cleaner looking on the inside, so usually, especially if I'm doing this for someone else, I will melt them. And per my sister's friend's daughter's request, I made Maddie a name bracelet. I've made all of her dolls little name bracelets, which I make these for my own dolls, so it's really fun. I decided to do butterflies for Maddie. The letter charms are all from the dollar store, as well as a stretchy cord, and then the beads were from different, like, kids' art kits. I used some really cheap, accessible stuff for my dolls. I did play around with owls at first, but the cord I was using was a little too thick for them, so I just went with the butterflies. I don't use the actual, like, bracelet making cord that came with some of these kids' bracelet making kits. I just use this colorful cord from the dollar store because it's a little bit thicker. And I started making these, like, 5 years ago for my dolls, and my first ones, like, say for Gabriella, they still are very stretchy, so they last a while, and, I mean, it's not difficult to just redo them anyways, even if they did lose their stretch. And while I was doing all of that stuff, I had her stuffing in the washing machine, in the pillowcase, and then in the dryer. You can hand wash a stuffing, but it's kind of more of a pain that way, so it's way easier just to put it in a pillowcase like you would a stuffed animal. And then I had to restuff all of her stuffing. It's really important to pack it down into their butts because, especially these older ones, they're quite well stuffed. Now, she's an early Mattel doll, so they don't have as much stuffing as, like, the Pleasant Company dolls, but they're still quite plump. So I had to really pack it down. Then I put her head on and reattached it by tying the neck strings. And you can see the camera wasn't in the right position, but I trimmed her hair too. Alright, this is Maddie after she's been bathed, and that's her little name bracelet here, and you can see she's nice and tight. I try not to pull on her limbs as tight as I would my own dolls, just because she's gonna get played with, so I don't want her to be too rigid. But you can see she holds poses, and her hair is all nice and shiny. And funnily enough, Maddie is actually twins with one of my dolls, so they are both Girl of Today number 13s. This is Ramona, and funnily enough, she was actually a Christmas gift I got in 2022 from my Uncle Ray. She was secondhand when I got her, and she is like the oldest version of this doll. So Maddie over here was made in December 2002, and if the meat outfit I got with her is the correct one, she is from 1995, but either way, she's definitely a Pleasant Company doll. She has like the squishy vinyl and the really long, thick neck strings. And I'll show you the difference in their eyelashes. So they do have slightly different eyelashes because the Mattel dolls have like the harder black ones, and Ramona has softer light brown ones. But they actually look a lot alike despite the manufacturing difference. So yeah, they look really similar. It's interesting because I have Girl of Today number 2, my Amber, that I got actually Christmas 2002. And I've seen an older version of her from 1995, and they look very, very different. This girl and Ramona, there's like some very subtle differences. Like I can tell from looking at her that she's an early Mattel doll, but they look very, very much the same. Super cute, and you can see Ramona also has her little bracelet there that I made her. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit different because I fixed up a doll that's not part of my own collection. I hope you enjoyed this video, And if you want to see other doll transformations, feel free to check out my Dolly transformations playlist. And I also have detailed tutorials in my tips and tutorials playlist if you want to know how I fix up dolls, because obviously this was just an overview of me working on this particular doll, not like super detailed. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.